Rebuttal is the part of your speech where you explain why your opposition's arguments have not proven their side of the topic. Explaining why the opposition hasn't proven their case is a very important part of convincing the audience that your team is right. So, who does rebuttal? The answer is everyone, except for the first affirmative, because they haven't yet had a chance to hear what the opposition's case is. But even the first affirmative speaker, after their speech, should help their teammates to develop rebuttal. In terms of timing, third speakers usually spend most of their speech rebutting. The rebuttal speakers usually spend about a third of their speech rebutting, but they may do a little more if it is needed to fully debunk the opposition's case. Before you can start coming up with rebuttal, you need to decide which parts of the opposition's case you are going to rebut. Your opposition will say many things. Many people believe that there are rules which limit which parts of the opposition's case can be rebutted. This is incorrect. Really, you should rebut anything the opposition said that the adjudicator might have found persuasive. This includes arguments, examples, their model, or even any rebuttal they may have offered to your case. But you still need to maintain structure. The first step to knowing what to rebut is to listen very carefully to your opposition and take notes. If you understand what they are trying to say, your rebuttal will be much better. Now we know what to rebut, we need to think about how to organize it so that the audience understand. The golden rule for structuring rebuttal is clarity. One approach is this simple three-step method. First, state which of the opposition's claims you are going to rebut. Use some of their words to make it obvious which arguments you were talking about. Second, explain why they haven't proven their side of the topic. This is the most important step and should take the most time. Third, you can reference one of your team's ideas if it directly relates to the issue you are rebutting. This is only useful if you have a suitable argument that will make your rebuttal more convincing. You'll repeat these steps a number of times for each of the opposition's arguments that you rebut. Okay, so we now know what to rebut and how to structure it. But how do we explain that the opposition hasn't proven their case? Here are three basic strategies. 1. Maybe the opposition has made a claim that relies on a false factual basis. For instance, if your opposition said that animals are happy in zoos, you could explain that for some animals, captivity can be very different from their natural environment, and therefore makes them upset. Maybe the opposition has made an incorrect logical assumption. For instance, if your opposition argued that animals are happy in zoos because they like having lots of people around, you could explain that sometimes people do things that might scare them, like taking photographs. The opposition had just assumed particular behavior of people, but not thought about how it worked in zoos. Maybe the opposition came to the wrong conclusion. For instance, if they argue that because animals are happy in zoos, people can learn a lot about them, you could explain that even if animals are happy, people do not necessarily learn very much about a wild animal from seeing it in a cage. Sometimes you will only use one of these strategies. Sometimes you will use all three. Sometimes you will do something completely different. There are no hard and fast rules. The only thing you must do is explain why the opposition hasn't proven their case. We have three last tips to help you with rebuttal. First, don't be anxious. Rebuttal is difficult for everyone, and we all need to practice. It can even be fun once you start to get good at it. Second, remember that the goal of rebuttal is to show that the opposition has not proven their case. Always ask yourself if what they said and what you plan to say in response are directly related to the topic. Finally, although your goal is to take down the opposition's argument, there is no need to be rude. You should oppose, sometimes aggressively, what your opposition said, but you should never be rude to the opposition themselves.